Villains, whether you love or hate them, you have to sit down and admit, DreamWorks probably has one of the best lineups of villains in animation. They compete with Disney regarding villains, and that's a tough topic because there's a lot of really good Disney villains, like Scar, and even from their most modern lineup of characters for villains, there are some good villains too. But DreamWorks seems to almost never miss, most of the time. And today we're going to be ranking, in my personal opinion, most DreamWorks villains. I know I'm missing like 1 or 2 DreamWorks movies on this list, but these are all the DreamWorks movies I had rewatched over these past 2 weeks, because yes, this is going to be a pretty long video. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'm taking the villains from the most major of DreamWorks franchises, being Shrek, the Puss in Boots franchise, Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, the Madagascar franchise, Trolls, Croods, and mostly the lineup from DreamWorks movies, mostly from the 2010s. So that's what we're going to be covering today, and honestly, thank you guys so much for the support. We're almost at 10k subscribers. Holy moly. If we can get there, that would be my dream right now. So make sure you guys subscribe, because I'm looking at the analytics and it doesn't look like a large percent of you are subscribed. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. And oh boy. Alright, let's start off with the list. Where else am I going to start without Shrek 1? So Shrek 1, in my opinion, is obviously a classic. But regarding its villain, the villain in this movie, a lot of people praise, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in A tier. I mean, most of the time in the movie, he just sat on his butt the entire time, while Shrek was off getting Princess Fiona with Donkey and bringing them back. He really didn't kick up into overdrive until the very end of the movie, and you know, he had his funny moments, and there were moments where I was like, oh, okay, he's fun. So we're gonna put him up in B tier, because I think that, yes, he's an okay villain, but I wouldn't say he's a masterpiece. Next, one is definitely a masterpiece. We got Shrek 2. Oh yeah, this is the movie, probably the best Shrek movie in the Shrek franchise. Just gonna put it out there right now. In the Shrek, out of all 4 Shrek movies, Shrek 2 is the best out of all of them. I think everyone can agree with that. And the Fairy Godmother, instantly A tier. If you have not seen Shrek 2, what are you doing? Get up, go watch Shrek 2, because it is an amazing movie. And not with just that, the Fairy Godmother actually seemed intimidating, actually. And really was like the complete opposite of the first movie, not just sitting around waiting for something to happen. He wanted Shrek out, he wanted Princess Fiona to marry someone else. And it was just like, wow. She was a really good villain, so respect. Definitely A tier. Okay, here's where it starts to go downhill. Shrek 3, yeah, I know, I'm already hearing sighs and cries and keyboards being smashed. But Shrek 3, yeah, we can all personally agree on this villain really, really did suck. And he's going in D tier. It's just like, why? He's like the least intimidating villain in the Shrek franchise, he's just like, just why? And it's like, if you got anything good to say about him, put it down in the comments below. But personally, me, he's going up in D tier. He's just not good. And I could say even more about Shrek 4. He's also in D tier. It's just like, man, how do you go from some of the best villains from Shrek 2 and Shrek 1 to like these very low tier, not intimidating, not funny villains? But Shrek 3 and Shrek 4, they go in D tier. Shrek 4 was slightly better than Shrek 3. Shrek 3 was just really terrible. But regarding their villains, they were both D tier. But that concludes the main Shrek franchise. We got the spin-offs to cover. And alright, here we go. And where else to go from Shrek than the Puss in Boots franchise? Let's go. Okay, so the first Puss in Boots movie, I've already talked about this a little bit before it when I covered the first Puss in Boots movie. The villain, everyone saw this coming, being Humpty Dumpty, you know, wasn't necessarily a terrible villain. I mean, I'd take him any day over the Shrek 3 villain, but personally, I do think that Humpty Dumpty kind of serves his purpose, and he goes in C tier. I know some people would probably put him in S tier just because of the meme, but I'm gonna put him in C tier. He's like a good villain. I like him, but he's not necessarily like Shen level villains, no. But he serves his purpose. Now we get up to the big stuff. We get up to Puss in Boots 2, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And oh boy, they didn't miss a single time with these villains. First of all, let's get death out of the way. Now, okay, before I even say anything, this tier list is made up of villains and antagonists. I know Death is not a villain. He serves his purpose to find Puss in Boots and teach him a lesson. So yes, he's an antagonist. But regardless of that, Death is going up in S tier automatically. I think he's one of the most memorable part of the movies. Every time when you think of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, you're instantly gonna think about that character. He is going down in the history books for the Shrek franchise and just DreamWorks in general. So Death right here, he just brings such a presence. He steals every single scene he's in, and the little screen time he was given was obviously on purpose. And every time he's on screen, it's just mwah, chef's kiss. If you haven't seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, go watch it. You're gonna love it. And there's more villains. We got Jack Horner, Big Jack Horner, if I really want to be technical. And oh my god, he's just as good. We're gonna slap him up in A tier, but Jack Horner, it was just the funniest villain out of that whole movie. Every scene he was in too, he stole. I honestly thought I wasn't gonna like this character, but no, I was very wrong. This character was like super good. I really did like every scene he was in. He was funny, it was hilarious, and actually it was a little bit intimidating. He was straight up killing off people on screen. There was a kill count in this movie. And wow, he's such a good villain. He does not care. He is a straight up monster. Like the Cricket said, like, he's a really good villain. And that's all I gotta say. He's going up in A tier right there. Next we got Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Just as good. I like these villains too. They're not necessarily villains, and by the end of the movie, they're like necessarily anti-heroes, not really. But Goldilocks and the Three Bears, they also, every scene they were mostly in, stole the scene. I was just like, no way they gave 3 chef kisses of the villains / antagonists in one movie. Never would I expect that. But yes, those 3 villains in that movie were all, one of them is S tier and the rest of them were A tier. Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear, they all steal their scenes, and it's just like, yeah. They're all great. Go watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Amazing lineup of villains. And next, we all know what we're going for. The Kung Fu Panda series. And this franchise also never misses. So let's go up with the first Kung Fu Panda movie. And do I have to say less? Tai Lung? A tier. A tier. It's just like, with this, he's such an intimidating force in this movie. And the fight scenes with him are just insane. And it's just like, with this movie, you also don't miss. It's a very entertaining movie, and Tai Lung just steals every scene he's in. And has some classic lines that go down in history, like, "Our fight will be legendary." That whole quote is going down in history, and I see it every single day. But Tai Lung, definitely A tier. Next up, we got Kung Fu Panda 2, which is automatically the best out of the trilogy. Why every time? This is like, every time, it's the sequel that beats out the first movie. It's just a common DreamWorks trope that it just keeps happening. But regardless, you know which villain I'm talking about. Shen in Kung Fu Panda 2, S tier. Very good villain. Every time I watch the movie, he's just amazing in every scene he's in. This is a little slightly darker movie covering how he killed basically most of Poe's family. But it was like, wow. And he was intimidating. And it was like the fight scenes he was in. Ooh, the fight choreography. Just amazing. and he's just a peacock that has like a bunch of metal parts like with him, and it's just like he's such a great villain. I really love Shen. He's going up in S tier. And next up we have Kung Fu Panda 3. Now before you say Kai is underrated, Kai does not deserve this. Yes, I know. Kung Fu Panda 3 is probably the weakest of the franchise. Not a bad movie, by the way. But I do have to put Kai in B tier. I do like him. I really do. But if you put him next to Shen and Tai Lung, he just doesn't reach that A tier mark. But he was a really fun time. J.K. Simmons playing Kai was a really fun time. He was a force, an intimidating force, but not as intimidating as Shen or Tai Lung was. When he showed up on screen, I wasn't shivering in my boots about it. But Kai was a really good villain. He really did have a force presence with him and could really take out people really quickly, turning them into those green copies. But Kai goes in B tier. He is not a bad villain, but he's a good villain. And we just left the Kung Fu Panda franchise. Like I said, these villains do not miss. And next up, we got the third place and probably the leading of the DreamWorks franchises, How to Train Your Dragon. And we got the first movie where, honestly, How to Train Your Dragon 1 was really good. And some people say this is one that the first movie is actually the best out of the trilogy. But I gotta be honest with this movie, it was good, but there's not necessarily a villain in this movie, if you could say. The villain of the movie was kind of the dragon, which isn't necessarily like a human, but you know what, he still goes on the list, and this dragon in this movie was pretty cool, so we're gonna put him in B tier. There's not much I could say. I mean, when we first saw him, we were like, oh wow, he's like really big. Obviously, he's like a humongous dragon, but yeah, he'll go in B tier. It's not much I could talk about him, but How to Train Your Dragon 2, yeah, I have a lot to talk about there. Him, A tier. You know which guy I'm talking about? He's going in A tier. He's such an intimidating villain, actually. Like, he definitely brought intimidation, and all the scenes he had mostly stole, especially the last scene, where you know who dies. Not saying, because if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. But How to Train Your Dragon 2, definitely my favorite of the three. He definitely goes in A tier, and if you want me to consider even his the other monster, the big dragon, yeah, go in A tier too. Much cooler design than the first one, the first dragon we got, so definitely A tier for both of them. They were just great. How to Train Your Dragon 3. Okay, I mean, going from How to Train Your 2 level villains to How to Train Your Dragon 3, I mean, this guy definitely has killed all the Night Furies, sure, go ahead, but he didn't bring that force like the second movie did, and I'm just gonna have to slap him in C tier. He's like, okay. He's not terrible, but he's just okay. The movie itself was good, it had a really satisfying conclusion to the whole franchise, but it was like, he's just okay. He wasn't the big bad villain I was expecting to close off the whole franchise. I really wasn't expecting that. So he gets the C tier. Now the Madagascar movies, I'm really gonna mostly skip over, except for one, because the villains in here are mostly like, if I really were to slap all of them in, it would mostly be either in C or D tier. But one villain stands out amongst all of them, and that is Penguins of Madagascar. Whew, it's always the spin-offs. The octopus from Penguins of Madagascar, slap him up to A tier. I'm not explaining it, because you need to watch Penguins of Madagascar. It's just such a funny movie. There's actually really funny gags in it. The Madagascar movies aren't supposed to be crazy action movies. They're just supposed to make you laugh. But the Penguins of Madagascar, it kind of balances it out with the action and comedy. And the octopus, A tier. There you go. Don't gotta say less. Go watch the movie. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. Go watch it. And wait, hold on. What is this movie again?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Home. That 2014 movie. Now we're starting to get into the movies of 2010, and actually right after this, it's not even a movie of 2010, I'm looking at the list. But, Home was, certainly a movie. I still remember this movie existing till this day, but it's a pretty forgettable movie. Some people might consider it their favorite DreamWorks movie. Okay, you go do that. But the villain in this movie was kind of eh. So we're gonna just put him in C tier. He wasn't anything special. He definitely did come and like do something, but he was like okay. The movie itself is a C tier if I had to place it there. Home isn't terrible, nor is it like a masterpiece. So the villain for Home is gonna go in C tier. And we go straight back to the 90s after I said we were staying in the 2010s. We got Prince of Egypt. You thought I was leaving this movie out, didn't you? But no, I am not. The villain of Prince of Egypt is a solid A tier. He was just it's a great movie. And it's like one of the few 2D animated movies from DreamWorks. And they steal the show regarding this one. And Prince of Egypt is just a great DreamWorks movie. Go watch it. I'm not sure where it's on at this point in time. But Prince of Egypt, really great movie. Villain, A tier. Okay, now we're starting to go downhill with these movies. You know which movies I'm talking about. Here we go. Boss Baby 1. There's not much to say about this villain. The villain in this movie really sucked. I mean, there's not much you could do regarding a movie called Boss Baby regarding their villains, but the villain just kind of sucked. The motive for it was kind of stupid. It made a little sense once he explained it, but after he explained it more, yeah, it went downhill. He's going in D tier. He's just like, he's bad, but he's not as bad as the second movie's villain, and that's where we'll go right now. Boss Baby 2's villain. It's even worse. I mean, no offense to Jeff Goldblum, but as soon as I heard his voice playing the villain in Boss Baby 2, I had a feeling this was going to be bad, and after I watched it, yeah, it was really bad. We're just going to slap him in F tier because don't even waste your time with this movie. Sit down with the first one and you'll be somewhat satisfied. Boss Baby 2 is just not a good movie, and the villain in there is just F tier. That's the first stinker we have on this list. Next up, we got Trolls. And the villain in Trolls, I mean, yeah, she had her moments, but not also that great. We're just gonna put the villain in that movie to a D tier. It's just okay. Like I said, the first Trolls movie wasn't as bad as the second, and it's a common trend. And regarding Trolls 2, yeah, it's the second stinker we have tier, F tier. It's even worse than the first one. It's just like there's no force, there's no really motive that makes sense with this movie. It's like Trolls 2 wasn't that good, period. I mean, you're gonna have to give these movies a rewatch if you're really gonna want to go see Trolls 3, which isn't gonna be a lot of you, but I gotta go see it myself because I gotta review it. But these movies are just okay. They're nothing special, but if you like Trolls, sure, like Trolls. Okay, next we have the oddballs that I completely forgot about. We have the Croods movie. I still forgot that Croods 2 got a sequel in 2020. I just remembered it while I was making the list. But let's cover the Croods villains. The Croods 1 doesn't necessarily have a villain, like I said, it was animal, but the animal in it, B tier. Does give a pretty intimidating force, and to see like a saber-toothed lion animated in that form, really cool, really sick. So we'll give him that really cool kind of villain. We do see him in the second movie, and now he's part of the clan, pride. I'm not sure what it's called, or just family. We'll leave it at that. He's okay. And the Croods 2, I'll also put in B tier. I mean, he has a really sick design. He has a much sicker design than the first villain, Saber-Tooth Tiger. He had a really sick design. I really did like him. But like I said, nothing special, but really good villain. Much better than the first movie. And at least he didn't become part of the family this time. But he also goes in B tier. He's at the high end of B tier. So we'll leave it at that. And we have the bad guys. This movie was pretty good, except for the villain. Like I told you, I love the bad guys. It's a really good movie. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. But the bad guys villain was kind of, Like when I was making the list, he was balancing between C tier and D tier. And then I remembered Shrek 3, and I was like, okay, yeah, he's much better a villain than Shrek 3. So we're gonna leave him at C tier. I'm not gonna put him in D tier. I'm not gonna kick him that hard to the curb, but he's gonna go in C tier. It was very predictable. His intimidation was like at 0, and it was like, okay, I saw it coming, read the books, nothing special, so C tier. And we have 2 more movies on this list. We got Aliens vs. Monsters. I don't have to explain this movie, just the villain. Pretty much A tier. You may disagree with me, you may not, but A tier for this movie. Go see it. You're not going to be disappointed. And next, finally, on the list, this was like, I'm not even going to count it, but it was a pretty long list. Like I said, this was going to be the longest video. We got Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. And the villain of this movie, Professor Poopy Pants, was definitely B tier. I did like this villain a lot. And it was probably one of the best categories to go with for a villain. Some people may disagree, some people may agree. But I think he was the best candidate to go as a villain for the movie. And in every scene he was in, it was pretty good. I mean, his backstory, I mean, he's kind of broken, but he's mostly evil. He doesn't really care about what anyone has to say. And he's just like, yeah, it was the best candidate to go with a villain. He's not Shen level, but he's a B tier. He's not a masterpiece, but he's a really good villain. He is a good villain. So that concludes my DreamWorks villains list. I know this is not everyone. I know I'm missing 1 or 2 movies, or maybe even 3, that someone is gonna leave in the comments. And you know what? If you leave it in the comments, I'll go watch those movies, and I'll leave my ranking down in the comments. But that is it. This movie, this took me 2 weeks because I had to rewatch all these movies, so I knew what I was talking about, in my personal opinion. But if you guys stayed through the whole video, thank you guys so much. This is my ranking. What are yours? I genuinely do want to hear what you guys think of these villains. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out. Let's get to 10K, guys. I know we can do it. Holy crap, I forgot Megamind. Okay, Titan from Megamind, A tier. Okay? Actually, no. S tier. I love that movie to death. I don't know how I forgot that about Megamind. I was just rewatching a bunch of movies that I haven't watched in a long time, but Megamind I watched so many times. But Titan, S tier, okay? Sorry, guys.